Topping today's news, the Prime Minister speaks on the National Development Plan. There is a reported case of malaria in country, COVID vaccines for children soon to arrive, and mandatory commercial driver's licenses fast approaching. Good evening, Bahamas. I'm Jarino Saunders. This is your JCN Evening News. Thanks for joining us. Prime Minister Philip Davis presented a lecture on the National Development Plan Tuesday evening, highlighting the importance of the plan and foreshadows the government's initiatives for the country in the future. Our Destiny Johnson has the details in this report.
From education to the economy, governance, social policy, and the environment, Prime Minister Philip Davis outlined various sections that will be tackled in the National Development Plan, NDP. Prime Minister was the main presenter at the Meet the Policymakers lecture series held in partnership with the Government and Public Policy Institute of the University of the Bahamas. Prime Minister Davis says the plan that was sidelined by the previous administration is a comprehensive roadmap for the policy decisions that impact the future of the country.
The National Development Plan for the Bahamas benefited by having input from Bahamians from each part of the country and every walk of life. The results, therefore, form a consensus of what Bahamians think needs to be done in order to move the country forward. The data contained in the plan and the recommendations built upon it are refined into a number of specific, tangible goals with strategies attached on how to deliver them. The advantage of this is that we are able to understand what success looks like. That said, it is not the specific step-by-step planning document which some imagine it to be. The government of today would still need to detail substantive policy and a delivery plan in order to make it effective.
While giving an overview of the previous administration's National Development Plan, the Prime Minister noted that he struggled to see any positive impact on the development since 2017, and the approach to the economy was that of a small business owned by the Minister administration. Prime Minister Davis says the government will ensure public investments will benefit the many and not the few.
It is an unrealistic goal. What is achievable, though, however, and morally compelling for us, is to protect that which I believe to be the common denominator of humanity, the joy of life itself. We will ensure that public investment in education, housing, transportation, and so on benefit the many and not the few. For example, you can see how, in just 9 months, we have broader access to affordable housing, and we made that a priority. This contrasts, of course, with the approach of the previous administration, which was to provide land for those who already had financial success behind them. The concept of economic dignity is closely related to the approach of economic justice.
As he laid the NDP, the Prime Minister highlighted the government's compendium of policy initiatives, including education, health and wellness, economy, and cultural and social building of the nation.
We'll educate not just for the broad curriculum, but also to ensure that Bahamians can take advantage of the opportunities we are seeking to stimulate in the orange, green, and blue economies. So, for example, our support for the LJM Maritime Academy reflects this, along with the launch of a new school for the creative and performing arts. Plans are well advanced to build new clinics and hospitals, but we have a bigger ambition: the recruitment of more doctors and nurses and staff who can give patients the care they need. Strengthening national health insurance to ensure that Bahamians can access that care, and support for wellness initiatives that should help to prevent people needing to seek medical attention in the first place. As we transition to achieve these goals, we have put in what I call a stopgap measure, reserving $10 million in this year's budget to cover the cost of catastrophic health care for those who can't afford.
The Prime Minister also addressed the violence on Bay Street during the Independence holiday weekend. He says the conversations and images of social media too often represent us as a violent, conflict-driven people, which we are not. Prime Minister Davis notes one of the major initiatives in the plan is gaining back the trust of the Bahamian public, noting that the public has lost a lot of trust in the government in recent years.
This is true not just of us here in the Bahamas, but we can do something about it here. In our view, the lack of trust has arisen because of the lack of transparency, a lack of accountability, and a lack of delivery. We have already taken steps and will continue to take steps to improve on each one of these. Our weekly press conferences, statements, video newsreels are all produced in an attempt to keep the Bahamian people informed about what we are doing. We have also improved media access to ministers so that ministers can give thoughtful answers to questions.
The Prime Minister says even though the government is still in the early stages of the National Development Plan, they expect to be held accountable in every aspect of governance. For JCN News, I'm Destiny Johnson.
Thanks for that report, Destiny. Meanwhile, tensions flared during what should have been a simple question and answer period during the Prime Minister's presentation of the National Development Plan. Queer theorist, human rights advocate, and member of the LGBTQIA+ community, Natio Thompson addressed the Prime Minister, questioning how the Davis administration plans to protect and help lesbians, gays, bisexuals, transgender, queer, intersexual, and asexual or LGBTQIA Bahamians, alleging that the Davis administration is one of the queerest administrations in Bahamian history. Well, Prime Minister Davis, in his response, says this.
When I spoke, I did not speak about female or male. I spoke about Bahamians. I spoke about Bahamians. And that is the way I view all.
In an exclusive interview with JCN following a confrontation with other lecturers at the series, Thompson, who says his pronouns are he and they, told us that Prime Minister's response is not enough. He says all they are fighting for is to put an end to discrimination in all parts of society. He lamented that during Hurricane Dorian 2019 and at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, the government had nowhere for queer individuals to go because of their unique situation, and many ended up homeless or couch hopping because of the government's discrimination. Thompson says the Prime Minister cannot say the National Development Plan is for all Bahamians if the LGBTQIA+ community is deliberately left out.
What I don't have and what we don't have is access to the social institutions. Currently, right now, Bahamian law does not bar an LGBTQ+ person from being discriminated against in employment or housing. That's a fact. Currently, right now, there's a discriminatory law where LGBTQ+ youth have to wait until they're 18, as opposed to people who are heterosexual or consenting to heteronormative kind of sexual behavior. You consent at 16. That's discriminatory. What we're asking for is for our full-fledged rights and access to them. That's all. I have nothing to say to anyone who's against me. You can't be against me. I'm a human being, just like you. I'm not asking for your permission to exist. I exist. And because I exist, you must respect me. And that's all that it is. Like, this is not rocket science here. Like, we're not asking people to give us respect. No. You will respect me. Because I am human.
While many eyebrows were raised when Thompson posed the question to the Prime Minister, he believes he was not wrong for his question because the LGBTQIA+ community deserves answers.
I'm not against you. All I'm saying is I matter too. I'm taking my rights. I want access to them. And I demanded the leader of the Bahamian state, the leader of this government, to respond to how they will provide space and access for LGBTQ plus people. What I did in there, it was not wrong. What it did was it offended their sense of religion and sensibility, their respectability politics, because I'm not supposed to say that in the open. I'm supposed to go along and hide like everybody else. Oh, no, but the days of hiding are over for me. Now, if whoever else want to hide, they can hide. I'm not hiding. You could deal. And if you have a problem with that, you leave the country because I ain't going nowhere. And that's just how it is. This is a different kind of day. This is a different kind of people that they're dealing with. And I will not be pushed into silence. You will not threaten me into silence. I am not scared of anyone because I matter. I'm a human being. And regardless of how I choose or who I choose to love, I deserve access to my rights.
Thompson says the Prime Minister did not give an answer that was satisfactory to the problems that their community face, and he will not be silenced anymore. He says he will continue speaking out until the words gender identity, gender expression, and sexual orientation is included in the discrimination clause in law. After a 2-year hiatus in the staging of a live event, regional heads of state and heads of government, along with regulators, telecom operators, and stakeholders, will come together July 17th to the 20th in Miami to discuss global trends, best practices, and forge new alliances. Cable and wireless communications operators of the Flow business, cable and wireless business, and BTC brands in the Caribbean is the headlining sponsor of the event, with this year's theme of enabling the digital evolution. Inge Smith, Chief Executive Officer for Cable and Wireless, said they have a long and proud history of providing reliable connections for Bahamian people and for those throughout the Caribbean, and they are committed to collaborating with all stakeholders to deliver greater opportunities and add value for customers and all who communicate via their networks. Mark Anthony Phillips, Prime Minister and First Vice President of Guyana, and Prime Minister Philip Davis of the Bahamas will deliver keynote addresses at the conference. Canto is a nonprofit association made up of operators, organizations, companies, and individuals in the information and communications technology sector, which advocate for policies, legislation, and rules to advance the information and communications technology sector around the Caribbean and the Americas. The Ministry of Health and Wellness confirming an imported case of malaria here in New Providence. The infected person, a Bahamian man in his mid-30s, recently returned to the country from a trip to West Africa. Health officials say the man is receiving treatment at a private facility and is expected to make a full recovery. The Ministry of Health and Wellness, in a statement, says it has activated its contact tracing and surveillance teams in light of this confirmation and will provide updates to the public should they become necessary. In the meantime, people are being advised to adhere to vector control protocols which diminish catchment areas where mosquito larvae can grow. Now, malaria is not endemic to the Bahamas. The last reported case of a local transmission was more than 10 years ago. Since April of this year, Love 97 and JCN has featured several reports on the new commercial driver's license. In the past, we featured the local training school, which has partnered with the government through the Road Traffic Department. In this next report, we get further confirmation from the Road Traffic Department that the commercial driver's license will indeed soon be a requirement. The time will soon come when those working in the trucking, hauling, and mass transportation industries will need to have their commercial driver's license that can only be acquired from the Road Traffic Department following certification at the Motor Vehicle Training School. New legislation is now in place. However, it is not yet mandatory as the government allows a grace period for the industry to adjust. Controller at the Road Traffic Department, Commander Bertram Boleg, is encouraging industry professionals who drive tour buses, jitneys, tractor-trailers, cement trucks, dump trucks, flatbeds, oil tankers, tow trucks, and other commercial vehicles to take advantage of this opportunity before it becomes mandatory.
I encourage all companies, there's a lot of companies that are like truck drivers, delivery truck drivers, they also need the commercial driver's license. We would encourage all companies, and even individuals who, you have some individuals who own some of those trucks, to please go to the school and try to get yourself qualified so you'll be ahead of the game. Because once it is mandatory in January of 2023 and you do not have that license, you will not be able to operate your vehicle. It will then now be against the law to operate those vehicles without that driver's license.
There are some individuals and companies that have already taken advantage of the grace period, and according to Commander Bowleg, there are plans to highlight their achievements, with the Minister of Transport, Jobeth Kobe Davis, also expected to congratulate them.
We saw it fit at this time to introduce the commercial driver's license to all persons who operate those type of vehicles. Now, it will become mandatory for persons to receive those driver's license in January of 2023. However, we already have some persons that are qualified. There's going to be a ceremony. A date will be announced when those persons will be receiving their commercial driver's license.
When it comes to the commercial driver's license, the Bahamas is behind other countries. In addition to helping to keep roads safe for all drivers and commuters, Commander Bowleg says for those in the industry, there are many benefits to obtaining the commercial driver's license, including opportunities overseas.
In all countries, all islands, all cities around the world, you have to have a commercial driver's license in order to operate those rigs, those big trucks, those heavy-duty vehicles. The Bahamas is now trying to implement it in our country due to the fact that our drivers who drive here, when they leave Nassau or they leave the Bahamas, they go off and they want to do the same job in the United States. They can't because they don't have the qualifications required to drive a large vehicle in Canada, Jamaica, the United States.
According to Mrs. Ethelyn Davis, chairman of the board at the Motor Vehicle Training School located number 30 Claridge Road, the training program is based on an international curriculum and involves both practical and theoretical sessions. The length of the course varies depending on previous experience. There is just over 5 months before the commercial driver's license becomes mandatory. And finally, in this segment, in crime news, 2 men who were allegedly found in a stolen vehicle have been arrested. A 26-year-old and a 29-year-old are in police custody after officers of the Operation Unit arrested them around 10:30 p.m. on Tuesday night. Police say the vehicle they were in was reported stolen on Monday. According to reports, around 11 p.m. on Monday, a male was sitting inside a 2013 pearl white Nissan Cube with the license plate AW5860 on Muttonfish Drive off Carmichael Road when he was approached and subsequently robbed by 2 men, both armed with a handgun. Active police investigations continue into this incident. Meantime, police is seeking the assistance of the public, identifying and locating 4 armed suspects. They are all wanted for separate alleged armed robberies. Police say one of the armed men attempted to rob another male while at a business establishment on Robinson Road shortly before 8 p.m. on Monday. The suspect is described as slim-built with dreadlocks and was last seen wearing a black long-sleeve hooded jacket with long jeans and a black ski mask. As for the other incident, police say a female was robbed of her black Wrangler Jeep on Tuesday around 10 p.m. She was leaving a business establishment in western New Providence when she was approached by 2 men, both armed with a handgun, who robbed her of her SUV. Then sometime around 10:15 p.m., a male on arrival at his residence in Jubilee Garden was approached and subsequently robbed of his white Nissan Cube, plate number AW5547, by a male that was armed with a handgun. Police appealing to anyone with information that can assist in locating these suspects to contact them at 919-911 or the Criminal Investigation Department at 502-9991 or 502-9992. Police also advising the public to never leave your vehicle running. If you even step away for just a few seconds, always drive with your doors locked and windows rolled up, particularly at night, and always be aware of your surroundings. We'll take a break here and we'll be right back after these commercials.